For me, AI is giant opportunity to rebuild everything. It's so fast. Blah, 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 rebuild. Like all the things that I was frustrated building on a cloud database or God forbid a client server database before that. Like, I mean, I have been doing this for a long time. And as a product person, this unlocks the ability to really fix customer problems.
If you build software or lead people who do, then you're in the right place. This is Hard Calls. Real decisions, real leaders, real outcomes. Hi everyone, and I'm Trisha Price, and welcome back to Hard Calls. I'm really looking forward to today because, as you guys all know, there are people who come into your life and see something in you that maybe you don't see yet. They take a bet on you, they help you. Well, about, 12 years ago, maybe more, fairly early in my executive career, I met today's guest. I was working at Encino. She was at Salesforce. And it was a pivotal moment for me. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget this moment, this time of walking into your office in San Francisco, meeting you, working together. For our listeners, you may or may not know, Encino was one of the larger companies in the AppExchange, and Leyla, who is our guest today, was leading the AppExchange. And I came into her office just to work on the relationship, get to know her, figure out how we better work together. And I walked out of there with a mentor and a friend and a champion. And that moment definitely changed my career, changed my personal brand in tech. And I probably wouldn't be here with today's Hard Calls podcast if it wasn't for Leyla. So I'm so excited.
That's not true. That's not true at all. But you are a sweetheart. You would agree we're going here whether I helped you or not. But you were easy to help, Trish. You were easy to help.
I don't know about that. You saw something in me and I helped, and I really appreciate it. And so everyone, today's guest on Hard Calls is Leyla Seka.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here. I love you so much, Trish. This is going to be fun.
This is going to be really fun. It really is. And for those who don't know, I'm sure you do, Leyla is a veteran when it comes to enterprise software, to SaaS, to partnerships. She really built and scaled the AppExchange. She has been iconic in helping with equal pay and diversity for women. And I also really look up to you for how you stood up for all of us. And thank you for that. So welcome to Hard Calls.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. And yeah, we have lots to talk about. I'm very proud of you too. There are not a lot of women product leads. There are some, but there should be a lot more. And you've always done such a great job of doing that job and showing up. So I'm thrilled to be here talking to you. And let's talk. What do you want to talk about, Trish?
Well, it is Hard Calls is the name of the show. So before we jump into a million things that I want you to share with our guests and me today, I'd love to start with just share with us one of the hardest calls you've had to make from a career perspective.
I mean, there are a lot of hard calls, right? Like, I mean, especially if you're a tech executive, like it seems like you are constantly making hard calls, whether it's like, do I go to my kid's saxophone concert or I go out to dinner with this big deal we're trying to close? Like, that's hard calls in business. But when you asked me to be on this podcast, I was thinking about you, and that always brings up Salesforce. And so I was thinking about Salesforce, and I did have one, right? So, I mean, there were many, trust me, but one stood out. And that was back a long ass time ago. I can't even remember how many years, but let's just say a long, long time ago. When Facebook was online and, it was sort of this thing we didn't really understand. We were all like, your high school friends were on there and all your work colleagues were on there and you were like showing pictures of your baby. It's a weird, like, what are we doing? What's social media? And enterprise software has historically been a pull-based system. You go in there and you try to get the data that you need out of it to figure out what you need to do, right? Whereas on the consumer side, things got very push, right? Hey, I mean, Instagram basically tells me what to buy. It's ridiculous. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy those shoes. And I'm like so completely stuck on them. They have my number, right?
The algorithm is correct.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then people are like, how'd you find that? I'm like, so shamelessly, like Instagram. It's terrible. But back in the day in enterprise tech, that really wasn't a notion. Like a feed in the system was not really how we were doing things. You navigated from object to object, you ran reports within the object, maybe you went into an analytics tool to do some comparative reporting, but it just didn't work that way. And so that the feed was kind of telling you, what should I pay attention to? And so at that point at Salesforce, we released 3 times a year. And I know that sounds archaic to people now. And I just, it's funny because I was just talking to someone about this as people are coming back from Davos. We could have released more often. We released 3 times a year because our customers couldn't take more innovation than that. And now AI is finding itself in exactly the same position of like, we cannot consume, right? So there's something there. We won't go off on that. But back in this day, we released 3 times a year. So we were well into a release, like we were in QA, right? We had coded a whole bunch of stuff. It had been a hard release to agree on what we were going to build because our boss was pushing this feed notion that all of us were like, dude, we got to build things that people are actually asking us for. We have to like get this work done, get these people happy, right? And for me, running the AppExchange, I had a hard time, right? I had customers as an audience, partners as an audience, developers as an audience, community as an audience. So like I had a lot to contend with when I was having to build stuff inside the marketplace. And this release, we'd really focused on partners finally, which candidly we hadn't done enough at that point. And Mark came into the product meeting basically, and we're in QA, right? We're not shipping, but we are coming up on it, like it's close. And he said, scrap the release. Well, they always say something like, we're going to put this release on hold. But if you know anything.
We'll come back to that. It's not wasted effort. It's not wasted effort.
Yeah.
We're going
to come back. Like, you never come back. You can't merge the code line back in. It's just not the way it works. Like, you're basically deciding to throw it away. I mean, I've done it so many times at this point, and with best intentions, right? But never. You just can't. It's not what happens. And he basically, for all intents and purposes, was like, we are stopping all of this, and you are all building something he called Chatter, which also we were like, what are you talking about? Like, for me, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, right? I don't know how I'm going to like explain to all these people that have been yelling at me for years. And I finally told them it's all coming, and now I have to tell them it's not, right? And something else is coming that no one understands or is asking for. Like, it was and my team, my developers, my product team, my marketing team, everyone was ready. And I was like, oh yeah, no. Right. And at the time I didn't believe, right? There are moments when you're an executive and you get decisions like that and you understand and you agree and you go back into the room of your team and you explain to them, listen to me, this is not a democracy and there's a lot of hard calls here and this is the way we're going. And I agree, right? And I understand you might have concerns. I'm happy to answer them, but this is the right decision. This instance, I did not feel like that. I was like, this is ridiculous. I don't understand. Like, this is not what we should be doing. But I had to go back in the room and toe the line, right? And be like, and then tell all the partners. And look, in the end, doing this became the thing that differentiated us as a company, shifted the way people looked at our software, which at that point was getting a little older too, and gave us an edge in a world where social was increasingly becoming the way people wanted to interact with any software. And certainly if you could promise some hope of that in the enterprise, you were far ahead of everyone else, right? So
like it really changed the perspective from this is an amazing system of record. This is how we run our pipeline. This is how we know if we're really going to make our number or not, to more of a system of engagement for teams. And if you look at to where Salesforce is today, Slack, except like it just kind of set it up. Like that was the beginning, right? So I wouldn't have believed either if I were you in that moment. But what a fascinating and smart move it was.
No, it did. It turned it into the customer master, which is pretty unbelievable. And the customer master in this day and age now, as we're transferring over into AI and data, is oil, or however people are talking, whatever the new phrase is, du jour. Salesforce is an incredibly important company, right? And it will remain important through all of the evolutions of AI. And you can't say that about a lot of big enterprise software companies right now, but when you are the customer master,
And
You
this was
will.
a part of it. Well, I love that your hard call was one that was such a pivotal moment in Salesforce's time in terms of, changing, and also one which we've all had to do, which is lead through a time of uncertainty and lead through a time when you're not sure if you believed or not. And it's probably one of the hardest things in leadership is to pivot the ship. And I think it's so relatable right now, Layla, because in this time of AI, almost all of us are having to make pretty big shifts right now too. And not every time we bring the new vision and the new, does every team member believe? And they'll say, well, show me the data. What data tells you that this is the right approach? And look, I'm very data driven, you know that, but sometimes you can't always be data driven. Sometimes you've got to innovate and take a chance.
You do. And I mean, listen, this tech is a major shift, right? This isn't like cloud, which I was at the front edge of, or any of that. This is very different. This is bigger. But the adoption cycle is the same. The humans consuming are the same. I mean, for me, AI is giant opportunity to rebuild everything. It's so fast. Blah, 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 rebuild. Like all the things that I was frustrated building on a cloud database or God forbid a client server database for that. Like, I mean, I have been doing this for a long time. And as a product person, this unlocks the ability to really fix customer problems in a root way, right? And then have that root data pull back out to give insights without them having to hire like a giant analytic system to try to get semi information on it. Now, there's a lot of issues with this too, right? Like hallucinating is pretty terrifying. AI hallucinates. That's pretty terrifying, right? If you think about business decisions being put into some motion like that. But the reality is like, the opportunity here far outweighs the worry, right? And I get it. Jobs are going to change. Things are going to change. Logistics are going to change. A lot of stuff. Airlines are going to change. So many big things are going to change that I can't even get my head around them. But I think it's right to be worried and to think through it rationally and to try to look at all the smartest people you know and figure out what the right answers are because the rules aren't set. Right. But I want to be clear. I was in the room when Salesforce was helping write the GAAP accounting rules with the SEC because no one understood a subscription-based software model at the time. Right. And that worked. We figured that out and a lot of companies prospered, not one. Right. A lot of businesses prospered, a lot of different industries, banking, a lot of things changed.
Your partner, it allowed us to innovate at a pace. It allowed us to gain confidence of banks putting important data in the cloud at a pace we might not have been able to without that partnership. And it was monumental for us at the time. It seems like commonplace now to people, but it wasn't commonplace when we were doing it together. And you're right. I do see a lot of parallels to AI right now. And, it's interesting when I think about AI as a product person, I think about building AI first systems instead of traditional systems. But I also think about like the day to day and how we work, right? And how do we take call transcripts from a customer call and turn that into code, not turn that into a PRD, not turn that into Jira tickets, but turn that into code before you're even off the call and you're able to check in a bug fix for an issue or an enhancement and show it back to your customer before you're even off the call. It's like mind-boggling. The way work is changing. Mind-boggling.
Yeah, I mean, even this, you have an issue in your department, right? You're talking to some vendors about the issue. They want an obscene amount of money. They are saying some long implementation time. You come back and in your own system, code the solution and implement it across your organization with no money and no engineering talent. Like we're shifting. This is a platform shift. This is like a fundamental shift. Like I was reading something coming out of Davos, like the head of Google Wizard division or whatever. They're all so smart. It's just exhausting. But he said something like, don't go to college and just learn how to use AI tools really well and you will dominate. And my kid's in college, right? So I immediately was like, hey, you taking any AI tool classes this semester? Like whatever. But this is a fundamental shift. This is crazy. And there are scary parts of it, but as a product executive or a technology executive, you have the wonderful opportunity to look across the board and look at really complicated problems that you couldn't solve, right? I mean, we've all BS to solve. I certainly have for many, many customers, right? Because we just couldn't do it. Like there was some block, whatever the thing it was, technical or data or security or whatever the thing was, there was something that kept it from happening. A lot of that is removed. New companies, new empires are going to be built. You can feel it in Silicon Valley. It's palpable. Like it's a shift in like the whole frenetic energy is shifting around because there's no one winner, right? Yeah. There's no one person's going to win this. This is like a category shifter and a whole bunch of industries are just going to, I mean, it's very exciting to me. I don't feel scared by it. I feel like exhilarated by it. And maybe that's why I'm crazy and do this. But do you feel exhilarated, Trish, or do you feel scared?
I do. I feel exhilarated. I feel like it's a time more than ever to be in the game. Like as a product exec who has the choice, I'm fortunate enough now to be an operator or to be an advisor, to sit on boards, and it's all those things are fun and they all have their advantages. Like for me right now, there's no way I could sit out and not operate right now because it's so exciting and you got to relearn everything. Like you can't just sit there and like, yes, there's still leadership principles that you and I know and product decisions and customer value and all those things that don't change. But the how you do it,
it's so exciting. Like, I mean, it's interesting. I'm not working right now and I'm getting hungry, right? Like I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I can't take it much more. Like I have to get back just for a similar reason to you. But I do think we're at an interesting inflection point in sort of the evolution of AI too, where seasoned experience is required. No matter what the tech is doing, now you need to build at scale and manage organizational change at scale in a world where the tech is shifting around so much, it's hard to keep your eye on the ball, right? You're like, which way am I going? This happened at Salesforce in the early days. We were the only public cloud infrastructure. If you were not going to build your own data center, you were going to build with us, essentially. Yeah. And so it's not exactly the same premise, but there's this interesting sort of thing happening. And I mean, look, there's a lot of opportunity and excitement in this, and there's a lot of smart people that I love and trust that are working to make sure that it's regulated right. Will it be perfectly done? Absolutely not. But as a product exec looking inside your company, if you're not seriously leveraging this in different ways and thinking about how to solve like your worst problems with this, you're not going to have a job much longer.
Yeah. I'm going to pull on a thread that you mentioned that I agree so much with, which is seasoned execs and sort of our gut feel, our decision making, our leadership through change, our ability to pick the right team and inspire the right team is more important than ever. How the details of how the sausage gets made and the work gets done, everything is changing, which is fun. And you have been through that before, right? When you think about what happened with the AppExchange and really the only real ecosystems and partnerships at that point were things like for the iPhone, right? And then you move that to B2B software. You were really a pioneer in that. And I'm sure people thought you were crazy and you had to do crazy things like try to balance people like me and our demands with your direct demands and your own need to build and enter industries. And you had to manage all that. It's like, those are the same complexities that are in front of us in this AI revolution.
100%. And look, we didn't know what we were doing a lot of the time. I mean, people would be terrified to know that like so much of our business in the early days came through on a fax machine, it was the sales understood in enterprise at that point were OEM sales, or like white label sales. It was very, very different than the notion that we're like going into business together. They're pulling some part of our tech with them or whatever it was. So like, yeah, it was super complicated. And running any kind of marketplace like that, or any kind, and which more and more software is becoming like that, right? It's harder to differentiate, or at the very least, your software needs a community around it. And again, I was lucky. I was at Salesforce at the forefront of sort of the definition of a lot of this stuff in the enterprise, at least. But listen, leadership is hard earned. I mean, well done. Like, if you're a good leader, you've gotten your ass kicked hard many, many times. And you have gotten okay with that or rationalized that through. And you understand that, like, different teams are motivated different ways. I remember all of a sudden my team became very young, right? And they were like asking me if I was like a baby boomer or something like that, which really was like terrifying for me. I mean, I'm like a squarely Gen X, thank you very much. But yeah, I mean, just so we're clear. But as the younger generation came in, their tolerance for certain things that we just absolutely assumed were normal went away. They didn't want to work all the time. They didn't really understand when I was texting them at 6 a.m. that had much more to do with me than them. Right? I'm awake and getting it out of my inbox. I don't care when you look at it. Like, just get it out of mine. Like,
I still do that, Layla. I still do that.
And I don't even have a job, Trish. It's like my poor friends getting like lunch invitations. They're like, okay, dude, okay, it's 4 a.m. We'll meet you.
In the morning. Yes, I love that. Well, Layla, when you're talking about leadership and your passion for your team, what do you think drove you for that passion for meaning mentorship, for your team leadership? Like, you definitely went above and beyond and still go above and beyond to invest in other people and see things in other people and give of yourself to make others successful. Like, what drives that?
Listen, like my parents were immigrants. Like, I'm first generation American. I was like taught that I was super lucky to be born here, right? And then my dad did pretty well, and then I managed to like put together a career. I'm neurodivergent, I'm dyslexic, I'm chubby, like I've always been all these things, right? And I've always been underestimated, sort of consistently my whole life. And so I think when I started getting good, I was like, this is my opportunity not to underestimate people or to show people stuff. And I also really hate it when things aren't fair. I will lose the race most of the time, honestly. I'm a chubby middle-aged lady who's like super menopausal, but I want to start at the same start. You don't get to start ahead of me, right? And unfortunately, a lot of this country is set up so that people start ahead of other people. And a lot of life is, and a lot of just the way things work is, but I don't like that. That makes me mad, like deeply angry in my core, like a fire starts to burn. And outside of my children and my family and my friends, like nothing matters. I don't like burn the house down, like take it. Like, I'd rather go down fighting than go down quiet with a beach house.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I've seen that from you. And I love your like analogy to like, are we starting at the same start line? Because I've heard so many times people say, well, if you're both interviewing for a job or you're both have the same opportunity, you have the same opportunity. It's like, well, really?
If I grew up around people like you, I'm going to be more comfortable for you than someone who didn't grow up around people like you.
Yeah.
That's not brain surgery. That's pretty simple, right? Like, I don't know. And I think also people need a lot of assurance. I was lucky. I had a lot of people along the way that did just totally back me, and I was not like everybody else. I'm very different. I'm crazy. I cuss all the time, super loud in the product org. Are you kidding? Back in the day? No. There was no one like me in the product org. So, and for years it was like there was only two women, me and Linda, in the giant product, so I was very different. And I love engineers because I appealed to them. They got it. They were like, she's smart, she's weird, but
you're smart, you're clear, you make decisions, you speak directly. And I mean, those are helpful attributes. And her cursing, I almost told the story when we started, but I'm going to tell it now. And I hope this ends up out there to the wild, wild world and no one cuts this part of our conversation. But the real story that I should have started with was when I walked into Layla's office. She walked out and she opened the door and her whole team was sitting there. And she said, everybody, we're going to make Trisha fucking famous. That's the real story for those who'd like to know. And yes,
We
so
did
I
a good
love that
job. I
about
had
you.
a hell of a marketing team. Leslie, Tom, I had a hell of a
Yes.
marketing team. They nailed it. Yes, I
Oh,
did. They were on fire.
oh yes, and I love that about you, and I love that directness and clarity and comfort in being who you are. You kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier too when you were talking about hard calls, and you talked about like the balance between raising a family and being an executive and those choices. And I've also often described my life as seasons. The working season's been a little big and a little long compared to some of the other seasons. Um, and then to your point with today's workforce, on one hand, you hear about balance a lot more and people and boundaries, but then on the other hand, you hear about, the 996 and people working 24 hours a day. So, you kind of get conflicting information of what's happening out there. Like, what do you think? Like, what is balance? Should there be balance?
Oh,
I'm
it's
not balanced.
I don't know. Balance is a hard word. I'm a Libra, so I like balance, but it's unattainable in a certain way. I think that it's really hard, right? It's really hard to work really hard and build a family and keep a relationship and be close to your kids and take care of your parents and talk to your siblings and see your friends and go grocery shopping and buy new jeans. It's hard.
Go to the
There's just
gym.
Oh, forget it. You hadn't even mentioned that, Trish. No self-care, please. I'm joking, but you know what I mean? So, I mean, I think all of that's really hard. I think you have to come up with your own rules a little bit, and they have to work within the rules of where you work, right? I mean, you can't be like, I'm not working on the weekend if you work somewhere where everyone's pounding in the weekend, right? That's not going to work, right? But you have to find a company and a group of people that are working in a way where you can do that with them. And then you need to be really clear. Like, I was a mess. We didn't understand. Everything happened so fast. I didn't know the difference between my work cell phone and my home cell. Everything was mushed. I don't think I did a great job at this. I think I've talked about this a lot, right? And I was just really lucky to have a really nice husband, who was super patient and who like sat there and was like, here's why you're hard to live with. And he was right. These professions, when you start doing well at them too, they feed an ego, right? And it's hard not to feel like, yup, here I am, right? A little bit every now and then. And no one in your family cares about that. None of your friends care about where you work or what
Yeah.
you did or what the AppExchange. No one cares. No one knows what you're talking about. So like, remember that your time's no more important than anyone else's. You're no more important than anyone else. Okay, whatever you did, great. Someone else did something greater and someone else did something less. Always. Like, but it's hard not to be wrapped up in that. I think for me, like, figuring out my own rules. And even now, as I like ponder going back to work in some kind of fashion, like, what are these rules? Like, can I do this? Can I do it? Can I not totally go whoosh 100% back in? Like, this is my whole life. I have almost no opportunity to see anything else because that's kind of how I work sometimes or have historically. So, and I think it evolves through time too. When you're young, you're grinding, right? As I'm 52, the world looks a little different to me right now. I'm still young. I'm still ready. I still got a lot of energy, probably more than most people, but like things change through time.
They do. They do. And I think that a lot of that can make us better leaders, being able to take a breath. I think some of the motions that got us here worked, but maybe there's a better way. And I think some of my patience level has improved, not like so much so that I'm accepting of mediocrity. Like, I will never be that person, but just being able to better understand life and
Yeah.
people's needs and things around you, and taking a moment to think before you react, send that message, etc. I think
Yeah,
it's beneficial for us. Like,
that's a good one.
it's really
On
good
the
for you.
other hand, I was was a hothead. I remember even like I worked with some older people on the AppExchange when I was like in my late 30s and they were in their 50s. And I was irate about something once and they were like, we've seen this before. Everything's gonna be okay. Just calm down. And like people have told me calm down my whole life because I have such a high energy level. So it's a slightly irritating thing for me. But I remember at the time being like, fools. And now I'm like, oh, everyone just calm down. Calm down. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
It's well prepared me for parenting high schoolers. Like when shit goes off the rails here, I'm also much more prepared to just like, you know, breathe deep and move along here. Contain and prioritize. Contain and prioritize.
Yeah, that's a great one. Contain and prioritize. Listen, life is totally unexpected. Things change on a dime. One day you're this, the next day something happens. Life is unpredictable. As product leaders, it's sort of our job to be ready for the unpredictable, which in an age when the technology is shifting so drastically is a hard job, right?
It's exactly how I came up with the name Hard Calls when we were thinking about the podcast. Because I was like, when you're a product leader, you're getting squeezed from every direction. You've got your CEO's got the next shiny idea like Chatter. You've got your board with your AI roadmap coming down. You've got your team who are amazing and spent all their time with customers and looking at the competition and really owning what their strategy is and the outcomes they want to drive. And then you've got sales sitting there with like, I'll never make the number unless you do these 3 things.
And support.
You're squeezed.
Yeah, and if you don't fix this, all the customers are going to attrit. I mean, it's a hard job. I took product manager a million years ago. I was offered like any job I wanted in like a teeny tiny startup, right? Like 5 people, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was working with all these consultants and they all told me to take product manager. And the reason they told me to take product manager was because it was like CEO of the product.
Yeah.
And I was 28, right? And they were like, you will learn how to work with every division. You will learn what every division does. You will understand how it works, how they relate to other divisions. And all of this has proven very true. And you know what else is true? CEO is a really hard job. It's a hard job. It's a hard job. It's not just like flying around on private jets and having a good time. Like it's a rough, hard job. You're getting yanked in 9 million directions. And that's what a product leader feels like. And in mass technology, like this kind of an evolution that's happening right now, job's really hard. Like, what are you doing? I just started taking a whole bunch of Stanford, like online computer science classes. And I don't even try to do the equations. I'm just trying to figure out what they want the equations to do. And that in and of itself is giving me such an edge right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I understand much more now. When people like this guy, Andrew Ng, is teaching them, he's fab. I like idolize him right now. But I'm just saying like, it's as a product leader running an actual product team right now and trying to make those hard decisions in the midst of all those other demands, like you just said, Trish, like, and trying to educate yourself about what you're supposed to know because everything's changing yesterday, today, tomorrow. That's hard. I mean, my advice to product leaders is find each other. Like, find each other where you live. Like, you know, Trish lives somewhere really random. Find her and build a group around her. Like, help each other. Because you'll share information and you'll make each other better, and you'll also like help set standard, right? Which you're not even thinking about. I mean, we did that with AppExchange. We set like a marketplace standard. Yeah, that was helpful.
Or we could just commiserate. You know, that's a great point. And for anyone who does want to get together with like the most amount of product leaders and product managers ever in the world, Pandemonium is coming up in March. And I will be there, and I'm sure that is really everybody who's there, and it is fun. So hopefully I'll see some of you guys there. Well, Leyla, thank you so much for coming on Hard Calls today. Thank you for your giving me a shot, mentorship, leadership, and what you did at Salesforce and the opportunity that provided us at Encino, and then for me personally. So I can't wait to see what you end up doing next. And just thank you again for coming on the show today.
I love you, Trish. You're amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Hard Calls, the product podcast where we share best practices and all the things you need to succeed. If you enjoyed the show today, share it with your friends and come back for more.